Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. Be quite nice. Have a good time. You'll be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentary.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cells.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast. Subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday and happy weekend to one and all. What's going on? Hope you guys are having a great one. Welcome to your Winged Eagle Podcast for February 11th, 2023. I want to open today's podcast with a massive apology. I have not been up here live streaming since Sunday when we did our WrestleMania 4 watch-along. It was a busy week. I was not here for Monday's Raw. I was not here for AEW Dynamite on Wednesday, and I missed a great show. And, of course, I've been working all week and didn't have any chance to really get up here and do anything on the channel all week long throughout the weekdays. But here we are. It's the weekend, and we're back for a podcast. It's kind of a light week in terms of wrestling news, but we do have some interesting things to get into on the wrestling news side of things. We're going to talk about the latest with the WWE sale and with CM Punk. Those are always two really juicy topics to get into. We also want to wish the very best to Jerry the King Lawler, who did suffer a stroke this week. I want to talk about the awesome Toxic Attraction split that took place on NXT. And we got a new WWE hire that has started with the company this week that does have some independent and pro wrestling experience already. And along with that, we're going to kind of look at this week's Dynamite, this week's Raw, last night's SmackDown, some of the key moments there. Cody and Heyman had an amazing promo on Raw on Monday. We had Ronda Rousey return last night, and we also had the continuation of an excellent Bloodline storyline with Sami and Jay really being the nucleus of this thing. And of course, the Usos had a title defense last night. This past Wednesday's Dynamite was pretty badass as well. A couple of really great matches, one potentially match of the year candidate already with Danielson and Rush. But we had a lot of blood on that show. We had a title change. The Ass Boys are your new AEW Tag Team Champions, and that did not go over well at all with the fans. We'll talk about that. Does AEW have a blood problem? We'll talk about that as well. And we'll get into lots of other news tidbits, news and notes in terms of what's going on both shows right now. A look ahead to Revolution, a look ahead to Elimination Chamber, and a look ahead to WrestleMania. That's kind of what's on tap for today, and I'm looking forward to it. Of course, we are up here 30 minutes earlier again than normal. Usually we're up here at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, but due to my work schedule, sometimes I have to come up here a half an hour or an hour early from time to time. So that's why it's always good to subscribe. Make sure you follow me on social media. That way, when I make you guys aware of time changes, you can know about that. I put a post up on YouTube and Twitter yesterday to let you guys know, and I appreciate everybody being here. You know the drill. Make sure you like this video. Please smash that thumbs up button. It would be greatly appreciated. The more likes we get, the more our stuff is pushed out into the the recommended tabs and things like that. So we really need the likes, and likes are a problem area on this channel. Probably our biggest problem is the likes. So you guys can be doing me a favor by keep smashing those likes, because I ain't the type of guy that's going to go buy those likes. You know what I mean? I know who's doing it too. So please help me out with that. I would appreciate it. And it should be a really fun podcast today. Unfortunately, tomorrow is Super Bowl Sunday. Normally we're up here for our classic pay-per-view watch-alongs, and we are now in WrestleMania season, which means we're going to do a WrestleMania every single Sunday leading up to the show. But the problem is the next 2 weeks are out. Tomorrow is Super Bowl Sunday. Obviously, not a really good day to be doing a classic WWE watch-along, especially if you live here in the States. If you live overseas, you probably don't give a shit, but it's going to be tough to do something like that with Super Bowl Sunday going on. Unfortunately, 1 week from tomorrow, I'm also busy. It's my girl Elizabeth's birthday, and we've got plans, so I will not be up here the next 2 Sundays for watch-alongs, but starting on February 26th, we're going to be hitting a WrestleMania every single Sunday until we get to the show this year. To make up for the lack of watch-along tomorrow, we're going to be up here to do a live Monday Night Raw reaction on Monday, just to give us a chance to hang out, to stream, to watch some wrestling, to shoot the shit, to talk, that sort of thing. We'll be up here Monday to do that. I should be up here Wednesday as well to watch Dynamite with you guys, and this week should have a little bit more content on the channel than this past week did. But of course, a week from tomorrow, again, no watch along. But we're going to start kicking off these WrestleManias in a couple of weeks, and I'm looking forward to that. If we can get up here during the week, if I can get up here on a Thursday night or something like that to do a watch along, we will do it. So stay tuned. I'm just not sure yet how my schedule is going to look for the next 2 weeks. But that's kind of what's on tap for the next couple of days. Like I said, no watch along tomorrow, but we will be here to watch Monday Night Raw together on Monday, and we probably will have a lot to talk about as it relates to the Super Bowl. Let me know your picks for tomorrow, Eagles or Kansas City Chiefs. I think that's going to be a really good game, fun game. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm probably going to be rooting for the Chiefs. My brother-in-law is from there, and he has, of course, converted my sister into a massive Kansas City Chiefs fan, and they are big fans. So maybe for them, I'll root for the Chiefs, but at the end of the day, Greg doesn't really give a shit. I just hope the game's great, and I hope it goes to 6 overtimes. That's all, and it doesn't end in a tie, so Donovan McNabb won't forget the rules. But Chiefs, you got some Chiefs. We got some angles. Chiefs and Angles tomorrow. Who knows who's going to win? It should be fun. All I care about really with Super Bowls is kind of like what I care about with WrestleManias. I just want them to be good. I'm from Detroit, and I live in San Diego, so the Chargers are gone, and the Lions suck. I really don't have anything ever to cheer or root for in football, so I just want the games to be good and exciting, and I want to enjoy them. So hopefully tomorrow, that's what we'll get in the Super Bowl. That's it for all the schedule stuff. Just want to let you guys know what was on tap. I do want to shout out all the current channel members. JCS 186, Chad Medeiros, Chaz Medeiros, Ian Joe Dunn, Motown Slim, Ken Webb, Titanium Titan, Mango Salsa, Rebecca, Josiah Blevins, Kevin, Red Raven Rucker, Ramon Coffee, MJ Parker, Kevin again, Ruben Litton, Fox Star Killer, The Juliet, Brandon Collier, Alan Carter, Randall Yates, Deshaun Robinson, Zach, Dre, Jose, Sean, 2018, Jordan Carg, Financial Truth Academy, Devlin Husband, Michael Tong, Longboard, Sam Piboon, Jeff McMahon, Mikey Too Cool, Luke McAllister, Tar Brehan, Zelius Ward, William, Bo Klavlovic, Angela, Spider, XRAR, Zach H., Chris Miner, Mike Witt, Jimmy Anderson, Michael, C-Mac, Mab, Joshua Aparicio, How Wheezy, Spaz Phoenix, Corey, Ronnie, Nicole, Marcus the Entertainer, Nikita Abalakin, Divine Ricks, Zane, Brian, Chris, Michael Cuomo, John J.E. Dennett, Tatanani, Nick Musser, K-Dogs Kennel, Max Pokebra, Spectre, Reese, Victor, Isaac, George Morris, Population 420, and JJ Leg. Thank you for supporting the channel and being members, and thank you to everybody that has come in, two of you that came in this week. Thank you so much for joining. Also, I want to thank Ramon Coffee, Joseph Hudson, Chris Broski, Divine Ricks, Nikita, Chris, Super Fluffy Toaster, Alan Carter, Chris Miner, Brandon Yelverton, Nick Musser, K-Dogs Kennel, Ryan Y, John Rediver, Claudio Clavidetcher, Daniel Rodriguez, Reese Jones, Josiah Blevins, John Riffle, Michael Cuomo, Naveed, and Blake Moran as well for supporting over on the Patreon page, which now is just sitting there that I need to start putting more content on. And for those of you that have still been hanging out on that Patreon page and donating to the channel and supporting, thank you so much. It really, really does help and keeps the ball rolling here because this stuff ain't free to do. So thank you so much for all of your help. And can't thank you enough, dudes. Again, since we're probably going to have kind of a low audience today on this Saturday, please keep smashing that thumbs up button for me if you don't mind. And now I'm going to go over here to the chat, say hi to you guys, and then we will jump into our wrestling news. Good to see Zane G, Max Pokebra, and Jimmy Anderson chiming in. Jimmy's saying hello. What's up, man? Appreciate that super chat. I know it's probably late at night or early in the morning for you, and I really appreciate you being here as always, Jimmy. Good to see Tatanani, Red Raven Rucker, Deshaun Robinson, Michael Cuomo, and Chaz Medeiros rounding out some more channel members in the chat along with Luke McAllister. Appreciate that $5, dude. What's up, Greg? So far, WWE is doing a great job keeping Cody Rhodes rolling while at the same time furthering the amazing Bloodline story. Luke, we're going to talk a lot about that later because, you know, one thing that I put on Twitter yesterday, and I'll elaborate more once we get into that, is that you know, a lot of fans are panicking. A lot of fans are seeing a lot of parallels between what's going on with Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan back in 2014. And while there are some parallels there, it's not really the exact same. And I'm going to trust, now that Vince is gone and Vince is no longer in control creatively, I'm going to trust that Triple H isn't a goddamn idiot. And years ago, this is something that I would be very nervous about. If Vince was still in charge right now, I would be like, they're going to blow this whole Sami thing. They're going to waste this golden opportunity that they have fallen ass backwards into, and they're going to piss it away just because they don't want to deviate from whatever the hell Vince has got, you know, set in his ways and his plans. But with Triple H, I just think he understands this stuff a little bit more than Vince McMahon does, and he's the type of guy that can foresee these potential problems. Triple H is not stupid. He's not like going to stubbornly just go with what he wants to spite the fans. He doesn't come off like that type of booker to me. So while Triple H and Tony Khan both are going to make plenty of mistakes as they head up their respective creatives, and they're not going to be perfect, with Triple H, I trust that he sees the landscape and he sees what's going on, and he's going to book Elimination Chamber in a satisfying way for the fans. That way, whatever they do, a lot of people, of course, 101% of the wrestling population is predicting that Jay is going to turn on Sami Zayn at the Elimination Chamber, setting up Zayn and Owens against the Usos at WrestleMania. That sounds lovely. Could Triple H throw a curveball? Sure. They're trying to set something up on SmackDown as well. Paul Heyman informing the Usos last night on SmackDown that Roman Reigns requests that neither one of them show up at Elimination Chamber, which you know at least Jay will. So it's going to be that's probably just a way to get Jimmy out of there, and it's going to be Jay that's going to be showing up by himself. So right now all the evidence is pointing to that, but why don't we trust the process here? Because this is Triple H, it's not Vince, and I personally believe that whatever we see next Saturday, 1 week from today, by the way, no Winged Eagle next Saturday. We'll be doing a Elimination Chamber review instead. Probably not a watch-along. We'll probably do a review. You know, next week, Roman's going to go it alone, so Jay's probably going to show up, and I think that Triple H can book this main event however he books the finish. If it turns out that Roman's going to win and go into WrestleMania to face Cody, which it does look like that's going to happen, I trust that Triple H will book this in a way to where it won't sabotage Cody, I think they're going to book the main event in a way, because so much of this stuff is centered around Sami and Jay. The fans can't stop reminding Captain Obvious, the fans out there can't stop reminding everybody that Jay and Sami Zayn are at the center of this thing. I'm like, no fucking shit. I didn't really think that was debated, but everybody keeps reminding fans, Jay and Sami are at the center of this thing. I'm like, yeah, I think everybody fully grasps that. Are there people out there that don't understand this? Is that why we're reminding everybody? I don't get it. But that these two are going to be at the center of this thing, and if Roman is kind of like almost an afterthought, and it's more about Jay and Sami and the development that their characters have gone through this entire thing, then that could be used as the focal point of the finish. And whatever they do can hopefully keep the fans' minds on the track. Okay, if it's going to be Owens and Sami, we want to see that. We want to see Owens and Sami together win the championships at WrestleMania. Main event of night one. A lot of people have been throwing that around as well. And of course, that Kevin Owens is also going to make his presence known in that Elimination Chamber match as well. So between Sami and Roman. So we'll see if there's a swerve, if Sami wins the title, if Kevin Owens turns on somebody, or if there's some crazy swerve we're not expecting. But right now, the way the groundwork is all laid out, looks like we're going to get that tag match at WrestleMania. And as long as they book the chamber match, in a way that can satisfy us, I kind of trust Triple H's ability to do that a lot more than Vince McMahon. So, Luke, time will tell. But I meant to elaborate more on that later. I kind of just did it right there. Also, George Morris is in the house. Good to see you, man. Love that icon next to your name. Looks good. Appreciate the $5. Hey, Greg, how are you doing? How is Tito? What's on tap for next watch along? How about WrestleMania 5, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 2000? Super Bowl tomorrow. I do need to figure out what we're going to do 2 weeks from tomorrow. On the 26th, that's when we're going to start these WrestleMania watch-alongs again, because the next two Sundays are, of course, out for me. And 5 is good. We got to do 3. I do like the idea of 2000, even though it's a show full of tag team matches. I would like to do 15 as well, because I was at 15. The problem is with WrestleMania 15 and 16, they suck. WrestleMania 14 wasn't really great either. Did we watch 14? I thought we might have watched WrestleMania 14. Maybe we didn't. But I got to decide that real soon, and I will be putting links up soon, probably in the next couple of days in my free time, start chucking up some WrestleMania watch-along links. So stay tuned, George. We'll figure it out. Max Pokebra in the house as well. Good to see you, man. Not sure if I got you earlier. Zach Palgett is here. Just trying to hit all the channel members first. Nick Musser, Juliet, I think I got you. Thank you for being here. Michael, I know I got you, and I also want to just say hi to everybody else. Nicola, Jay Lambo, Vash Starwin, Big J, Ben Espinoza, Mohammed, William Cullen. Good to see you as well. Hassan is here. We got JL. We got Matos. We got D, the original. We have Andy Linnell is here as well. We have Andy Linnell. Are you the same Andy Linnell that I follow on Twitter, or is that a different dude? Gilbert Arbalo, good to see you as well. Nate Burgeon is here. Sonic Plays. Destiny in the house. Quentin Brockington is here. Rodrigo, good to see you, my friend. By the way, Rodrigo sent me a message on Twitter telling me that he was blocked from our chat, which I never did. Mike Witt, a couple of weeks ago, also sent me a message telling me the same thing. They were blocked. What the fuck? I never blocked them, so I went and found their channel, unblocked them. I don't believe mods have the ability to block people, so I don't know how these people are getting blocked. If you are blocked, just shoot me a message over on social media. I'll unblock you, because there's only a few people that I've gone in and blocked myself who are just being fucking pricks. But nice people I've gotten a couple of messages saying, hey, I'm blocked for some reason. So if you are nice and you have never said anything bad in the chat and you find yourself blocked, I promise you it wasn't on purpose. Something might be going on. I don't know. So apologize to you, Rodrigo. Glad you're here. And that goes for anybody that is experiencing that. That should do it there for the shout outs for the moment. We got to start getting into stuff and talking about the wrestling news. Why don't we start with Jerry Lawler? Jerry Lawler news. Unfortunately, the King suffered a stroke last Tuesday at his home in Florida. He underwent emergency surgery, and as expected, as the case always is with Jerry the King Lawler, very good news. He is expected to make a full recovery. This is the second stroke this dude has had in like 5 years. I think he had a stroke years back while having sex with his wife or something. And that was just a few years after his heart attack on Raw, which has now been, 10 or 11 years since that happened in 2011. I was watching that night. Pretty sure I did a commentary way back in the day. I was in my first apartment here in California. And I remember watching that night when Jerry had his episode, and you know how scary that was and how lucky he was to be at work when that happened, because had he suffered the same thing at home, he'd be dead. So the fact that all of that medical personnel and you had ambulances there and they were able to get him to the back and get him treated so quickly, they saved his life. And I feel like Lawler's been living these past 10 years as it's been extra, you know, because he's not supposed to be here, and he is, and he's living life to the fullest. You guys know I'm not very shy about it. I'm not a very big Jerry Lawler fan these days. I think he's kind of creepy, and his shit is just tired and old, and I don't have any reason to ever need to see him on a WWE kickoff show or doing commentary, but that does not mean I wish any ill will towards Jerry Lawler at all, even though he's blocked me on Twitter. Of course not. I don't want anything bad to happen to Jerry Lawler. He is a legend and will go down as a legend in the wrestling business. And, you know, that feud with Andy Kaufman is something that I don't think anybody in wrestling is ever going to forget how, you know, important and big of a deal that was at the time. And, you know, what a long, unique career Lawler had as a guy who kind of homesteaded himself in one spot and won 75 world championships and 100 more secondary titles, and really made himself God in his little pocket of the country. And that was smart business. You know, Jerry Lawler's always been that way. And it really, really is a legend in terms of his longevity and how many years this dude has actually had a competitive match in the ring. I think he's into his, 6th or 7th decade of actually being in the ring, which is nuts. So best wishes to Jerry Lawler. We did see that Jimmy Hart posted a picture. He visited Jerry Lawler in the hospital. Lawler was smiling. He was sitting up. I mean, how this dude had a stroke, underwent surgery, and is already sitting up, expected to make a full recovery. It seems like the king is bulletproof there and just keeps on ticking. So glad and happy to hear that he's going to make a full recovery, and that's really, really good news. And also very awesome to see Jimmy Hart and Lawler reunited. It's so cool that they're still kind of close after all these years, going all the way back, you know, to the late 70s, early 80s with those two. Very, very cool. Best wishes to Jerry Lawler. Get well soon, King. Let's talk about the latest. We always, I think every week on this podcast, until we get a resolution, we at least have to talk or mention Vince McMahon and CM Punk, because both of those issues are looming and hanging over our heads. Vince McMahon and the WWE sale and what the future of CM Punk is. And we might have some news on both of these topics. Let's start with Vince. Now, last week on the podcast, we talked about the CNBC article that claimed that Vince's involvement was kind of a sticking point so far in negotiations. This article was released right after Nick Khan had an interview with CNBC where he adamantly said that Vince 100% would step away from the company if it meant securing the best deal for the shareholders. And the minute we said that, we were skeptical. And of course, right after that, their own publication released an article claiming that might not be the case. Now, Meltzer in the latest Observer, now, grain of salt here, this is Meltzer, but what he's saying is claiming that Vince's presence, from what he's hearing anyway, his presence is a hindrance, not a help. Shockaroo. Who would have thought? I mean, when you put yourself in the shoes of some of these big media companies, who the hell would want Vince around? Like, who would make that part of the deal? Knowing Vince's reputation, knowing the hush money scandal, knowing the bunch of shit that apparently is still out there that hasn't been released, more scandals, more bad news coming, and the more and more we go here, the longer this takes, the more it actually is starting to look like, from where we sit anyway, even though we're all mostly clueless in the grand scheme of things, from where we sit, it does really look like Vince is an obstruction to getting this stuff done. He forced his way back in because he wanted to be a part of the deal. He feels, and I said even back when he did this, when I was still like, why does Vince think that nobody else other than him can get this done? This is a guy that's, you know, yes, he's got a lot of business sense, but he's been a wrestling promoter for the last 40 years. The WWE product and the WWE universe has been his primary focus, you know, with a lot of executive stuff on the side. But doesn't he believe that people who have been doing this financial shit their entire lives and are actually, you know, have positions that, you know, you can bring them in to actually help secure you the best deal? All of these great, smart financial minds that WWE has surrounding them, Vince McMahon is the guy that's got to make the final call. He's the only one with the mental capacity to get this shit done. I never believed that. And I thought that was ludicrous. But then again, it's his own company. And if he wants to force his way back in there with his controlling 30% of the shares or whatever he has, I suppose that he can do that provided he has this type of control. So this reminds me of a few weeks back, about 1 month ago now, because it was January 11th when I went to LA for Dynamite. I think it was the night before, on January 10th. On a Tuesday, there was that rumor that WWE had sold to the Saudis. Now, I would normally ignore that rumor, but I was leaving for Dynamite the next day. I would have no chance to get up on YouTube and talk about that at all if I didn't do it that night. And when we came up Tuesday night, I made sure I spent 5 minutes at the beginning of the podcast there saying, I'm like, listen, these are just rumors and nothing is confirmed. We're not reporting this as fact. We're not reporting this as news. We're not reporting this as breaking news. We're simply discussing the rumor of this Saudi stuff. And we talked about it like that. And if it happened, what would be the result, or what would be the future of the WWE, and what if it didn't happen? What if this is all just a big red herring, or it's just a false alarm or whatever? But when you look back and you think about that, where did that rumor come from? Nobody just pulled it out of their ass. It didn't just fall straight from the sky and hit us in the head completely out of nowhere. Shouldn't there be a little bit, of fire to that smoke that we see? Where did that rumor come from? And so it made me wonder, when you read Meltzer's comments about this and you see what CNBC wrote last week, it is starting to look like Vince's presence there is actually hindering them getting a deal done, unless that Saudi deal is not off the table yet. Perhaps a month ago when they were offered a deal from the Saudis, it's kind of like in, professional sports. If you're going to hire a head coach or something, you have to go through the process. You can't just interview one guy. Ooh, we like him, you're hired. You got to go through a process. You have to talk to other people. You got to interview minorities. You have to do a lot of stuff and go through a hiring process before just saying, okay, we're going to do this. Now, I'm not saying it's the same exact thing, because it's you're selling a whole company here, not just hiring a head coach. But you would think there's also a process to that. So let's say, for example, the Saudis offered WWE this amount of money to buy the company. Then they can say, okay, well, let's see, what else we can get. Comcast or Disney or whoever could see this deal and say, okay, we want to offer you something similar to that. But I wouldn't be surprised if, the Disneys, the Netflixes, the Amazons, the Comcasts, any media company is not going to want Vince McMahon anywhere near the WWE. That would be my assumption. I'm just assuming and guessing. I could be wrong, but I would assume no head of any negotiations from any of those media companies, the ones I just mentioned, would be okay with Vince being there, when you know how big they are and how much control they want of stuff, and they've already purchased entities before and cut out creators. It's nothing new, and they wouldn't make some sort of an exception for Vince. So, the Saudi deal, the Saudi, public investment fund that would essentially buy WWE, or if they would take on investors, or maybe turn the company private or something, or, make the company public again, there could be a deal in place that would keep Vince in the company. But what does Vince want? Does Vince want involvement, or does Vince want to be in charge? Because who we've always known Vince McMahon to be, could you see this dude having a boss? He's going to be 77 years old, or however fucking old he is now. He's gone all this time, just being the king of wrestling. And now all of a sudden he's going to answer to people. Unless it's a matter of, when Endeavor bought UFC, Dana White stays in control. That's a completely different situation, but maybe it's something like that. That's what Vince is pursuing. He wants to have full say in all decision-making in the company, but still not own the company. I don't know how that works and how that's supposed to work. And if Vince is really trying to find a buyer that will allow him to have, the final say, or have enough control or more control in the company than anybody else, maybe that's what he's really positioning himself to do, so he can take back over creative. But what the hell does a 75 or 77, I forget how old Vince is, hit me with that in the chat. What the hell does a man of his age need to still be involved in creative. I know Vince probably does think he's going to live forever, and I know Vince is a freak of nature, but no matter how much of a freak of nature you are, you cannot escape Father Time. There's nobody walking around this earth that's 160 years old. Nobody. So Vince will die. The time will run out on Vince. You can already see it in him. He's mumbling when he talks. He doesn't make any fucking sense. And he's starting to lose his mind a little bit. And I just don't think you want anybody like that in control creatively and trying to force his way in there, to where if he does that, all he's doing is implementing and installing himself back in charge for a finite amount of time, probably a short amount of time, because if this dude is sitting there writing TV when he's 90, we are doomed as wrestling fans. So I have been of the belief all this time that I believe Vince when he says he's not there to hinder creative or disrupt management. But even though everything is fine right now and Triple H is in charge of creative, we've already seen Stephanie McMahon step down, and we've already seen WWE flat out lie about a couple of things. And now the latest one with Nick Khan saying things like 100% Vince would absolutely step away from the company if it meant the best deal for the shareholders. It doesn't sound like that might be the case, but there's a lot of stuff about that side of it that we don't understand, the fiduciary duties and that nonsense, so Vince and the WWE are offered something. I don't know if Vince McMahon can just flat out turn it down because he doesn't want to. If they get the best deal and he doesn't want to sell to them, then there could be a lawsuit because he's costing the shareholders money. And WWE, Nick Khan, all of them have not shut the fuck up about how shareholder value, maximizing shareholder value is the number one priority. So fine, if that's the case, then, what happens if they are offered a deal by Comcast or something, but Vince is wanting to hold out for the Saudis, and they're like, hey, we're getting this good deal. We're all standing, including yourself, we're all standing to make a lot of money here. And for you to not do this, that could trigger lawsuits or whatnot. I don't really know. But between those two pieces of evidence, last week, CNBC writing that article, Meltzer kind of speculating these things, and the fact that we heard about that Saudi deal and then it was immediately kind of debunked. But where did that rumor come from? You know what I'm saying? I don't think anybody would just up and just, let's just throw this out there on Twitter and just throw the world into a tizzy just for fun. Maybe that's what happened, but I doubt it. I think there might have actually been, something to that. And maybe what we're seeing now is the after process of that. They got offered the deal, but now they have to explore everybody else. Okay, hey, Disney, Netflix, you guys, you wanna buy us? Send in your offers because we got one. Beat this one and we'll sell to you. Who knows? Maybe that's what's going on here. But at the end of the day, nothing that I heard this week about the WWE sale made me feel very good. I'm still incredibly nervous. And I don't like to be one of these like, oh my God, the sky is falling, Armageddon type of fans. You have so many people and so many fans and podcasters and YouTubers and people like that are convinced that Vince is just coming back because he doesn't care about anybody else but himself, and he can do what he wants, and he's going to install himself back in creative, and Charlotte's going to beat Roman Reigns for the fucking title at the main event of WrestleMania. That's the level that these people take it to. And I'm like, you got to dial it back. You got to pump your brakes a little bit because that's not really the case. Vince can't just do anything he wants to do. It seems like it, but he just can't do anything. He cannot sell the WWE to Arby's for $5. He cannot do that. Cannot do that. Even with his power, he can't do that. So I think there is a line to it. I think Vince, even though he's old and delusional and fucking nuts, I don't think that he would be foolish enough to sabotage his own company. He has to I know Vince, Vince is a lot like Trump. He doesn't understand. He really thinks he is the greatest, but I do think Vince is a little bit smarter. And I think that he's going to, if everybody is telling him, look, your presence in the WWE locker room in creative is going to adversely affect the locker room morale, the storytelling, the stories that we've been building all this time, to throw your old 70-what-odd-year-old ass in here as this big, wrinkly, mumbling monkey wrench to fuck up all our stuff is going to do nothing but piss off the fans. It's going to affect ratings. It's going to affect the morale in the company. And the numbers don't lie. Look at the numbers. Look at the fan enthusiasm, the fan interest. Think about myself on this podcast, how differently I've been talking about WWE in the last 9 months. Everything has been moving towards a positive direction since Vince leaving WWE. Even as delusional and selfish as Vince McMahon is he selfish enough to sabotage all of that? just because he personally can't live without being in control of the company. That's what you have to ask yourself. So even though the Vince stuff makes me worried, even though when you hear this stuff about Vince, it really pisses you off, especially what a sleazebag he is and a scumbag he is, and all the more crap we're going to hear about him coming up, more scandals, more accusations, more hush money. You know, the fact that this guy can still so proudly want to be a part of this, isn't he embarrassed? No. And that's the thing with these egomaniacal maniacs like him and that orange fuckbag that was president. They do not care. They are so oblivious, you know, to the damage they do and what rotten human beings they are. And if anything, they think the opposite. And I think Vince, a lot of that too, is that he really truly believes in his heart that the company cannot function going forward without his input whatsoever, which is just really, really crazy to me, that if Vince has that mentality. Nick Khan is saying that that's not what Vince is about. That's not what Vince is here to do, but the evidence points to a different direction. We all know, I don't even understand why a Nick Khan interview is really news, to be honest with you, because what is he going to say? Is he going to go out there and tell the God honest truth? No. They're in the middle of the sale process right now. So he's going to be extremely diplomatic, and he's going to basically be full of shit in every interview that he does while this process is going on. He's not going to tip his hat or, you know, or show his hand into what Vince is going to do or what Vince really plans on doing. If anything, maybe he's just going on these interviews to cool everybody off. Everybody's convinced Vince is coming back and going to force his way back into the company. And Nick Khan goes on TV to say, no, he's assured me, said 100% he'll step away if it gives the shareholders the best deal. So we will see if that turns out to be true or not. If Vince McMahon stepping away from the company will get WWE the best deal and make the shareholders the most money, then the ball is in Vince's court, I guess. But I have my doubts. I think a lot of you have our doubts. And I think that even though I'm nervous, I would just like to think that at the end of the day, when the smoke clears, like I just said, Vince, how he cannot be aware of how damaging his presence can be and how he cannot be aware of looking at the numbers for the last 9 or 10 months and seeing how things have improved since he's been gone. And he can look at that stuff and still say, I don't care. I just want to be in charge anyway. You know, I'm going to run again. Vince 2024, you know, fuck. Get the hell out of our lives already and spare us this misery. And I don't know what to make of it. I just don't know. It sucks. I've mentioned this in the past couple of podcasts that we're actually in the middle of WrestleMania season right now when all of this WWE sale stuff is looming over our head. I think that after WrestleMania, we will get an announcement on the sale. I feel like we're going to get that announcement by May. But I'm almost like I want it to be concluded. I want this just to happen so we can get back on track, because another thing that I've been talking about a lot recently is from the perspective of Triple H. Even though he's doing a great job in creative, what the hell do you think is going on in his head right now? Yes, he's the head of creative, but there's a lot of other stuff on his plate in terms of his family and what's going on with his father-in-law and the sale of this company and what his future is going to be. Sure, he's in charge of creative right now, but who knows when WWE gets sold or wherever they go or land or however the company changes internally behind the scenes in terms of ownership, what that means for him. And how can you have your 100% focus on WrestleMania storylines, the wrestlers, the company, when you have all that going on in your head as well? You know, maybe that's why Triple H isn't trying to get too cute with the Sami Zayn stuff. No, we got our Cody and Roman plans. We want to stick with that, you know, and not try to take a sharp left turn right in the middle of everything going on with the WWE sale, make some sort of catastrophic mistake. Maybe all that's going on in his head. So he's saying to himself, all right, let's just stay the course here. And hopefully we can book these matches in a way that will still satisfy the fans and won't sabotage our Cody and Roman Reigns main event. But how can you put your full 100% focus in energy into something when you don't even know what the future of your company is? You know, I'm a restaurant manager. I've been in restaurants my whole life. You know, if I was going into work one day thinking that the restaurant could be sold in 2 days and closed down, why am I even going to bother doing my job right? What the fuck do I care? You know, if we're all going to be out of a job in 2 days or something like that. I just think that it would be hard to concentrate, focus. But so far, you wouldn't know it from WWE TV. The Bloodline storyline is the best damn thing they've done in years. And they have a lot of good things going in the company right now, despite, you know, in terms of on TV, despite with the complete turmoil that seems to be going on behind the scenes in the company. So as usual, we will keep our eye on Vince McMahon. Speaking of controversial figures in wrestling, what about Chicago Phil? More Meltzer. Meltzer speculated in the latest Observer that CM Punk could come back very soon, because if you think about the timetable of when he got hurt at All Out, we're coming up on, I think there was like a 6 to 9 month timetable for an injury return for what he had, and we're coming up about that 6 to 9 month period. So there is still a lot of talk about a CM Punk return. Fans have been speculating a lot about this online. Been seeing a lot of people, oh, Punk is definitely coming back, or they're dropping too many hints, or, oh, he's going to show up and attack so-and-so. A lot of fans feel like they're seeing signs of this. Punk is responding to things on Instagram. You're also starting to get some talent who are siding with him. We heard Jade Cargill say very nice things about CM Punk. We know FTR likes CM Punk. He has allies in the locker room. Brody King liked a tweet from somebody who said CM Punk didn't do anything wrong. So it would be interesting, and you can kind of analyze social media, Twitter, Instagram, to try to get an idea of how much of the locker room is pro-Punk and how much is anti. We know the guys that aren't anti. We know Jericho's one of them who doesn't want anything to do with Punk back. So if Punk came back in, it feels like there would have to be a lot of obstacles to overcome. And Meltzer was kind of speculating that he could come back due to the extreme lack of, really strong baby faces in the crowd right now, or in the company right now, because MJF is your top heel champion. He's not ready to be dropping the belt yet, but at some point you're going to need a babyface to rise, to be, the front runner to kind of take him down at some point. But even if you did bring CM Punk back, would he be a heel? Or would he be a babyface? Excuse me. He might be a natural heel. Much like Vince McMahon's music, even though a complete scumbag is coming out, the fans still cheer for that. So I think if Cult of Personality played, I think the fans are just going to naturally cheer. I know I would if I was in the crowd. I just start going nuts. Holy shit, CM Punk. But at the end of that, how is Punk going to come out there and be a babyface? What kind of an angle is he going to do? Is he going to stay completely separated from the Elite? I don't think that's going to be possible. I don't think you bring Punk back and pretend these wrestlers have nothing to do with each other. It's wrestling. There is a beef between these wrestlers, then these wrestlers need to be in the ring to settle this beef. So a lot would have to be done. You'd have to have, I don't think you could bring CM Punk back and not do business with the Elite. I think they would have to work together. Punk would have to work with Heyman or the Elite or something. Otherwise, it wouldn't be interesting. You got to bring that back. So those hurdles have to be overcome. CM Punk might have to go out and issue a long, drawn-out apology to Hangman Page, to the Elite. Who knows? Didn't Hangman mention something like that in that one promo? The apology just needs to be just as loud as whatever, or the shit talking, I forgot what the line was, but something to that effect. And maybe Punk comes out there and does that. And maybe it's a half-work shoot thing. Punk could get on the mic and say an apology to the Elite, even call him out to the ring, and he could almost like what Cody and Heyman did on Raw. He could look at all of them and say, look, man, I'm sorry. I was out of line. Sorry about that. And he could mean that. So in reality, he's meaning it. Saying them person to person in front of everybody, he's meaning that. But the angle after that, he's going to turn on him and turn heel. But the apology was real in real life, but then they turned it into a wrestling angle. Then he attacks him. I didn't mean that apology, when really he did. And it's almost like you kill two birds with one stone. You've kicked off the angle. Punk is going to, now face somebody in the Elite, or maybe FTR is going to join him. There's going to be some sort of a feud there, but at the same time, he still did give that apology. And maybe the Bucks and Kenny threw one back because, I think in that situation, Punk is the instigator. Punk is the one ultimately at fault. But that doesn't mean the Bucks and Kenny did nothing wrong at all. I'm sure there's a couple things they did that night that they regret as well. So even though I think Punk was the one that deserved to be punished, that was the right call. Or punished longer, or kept off of TV, that was the right call. It's not like, the Elite are completely innocent in this, but put yourself in their shoes. If some fucker like him is just going off on me for 30 minutes at a presser, and I'm in the same building as him, you goddamn well bet I'm going to be knocking on that boy's dressing room when he's done. That's what I would expect those boys to do. So Punk return in AEW. Personally, I want to see it. I do. I don't, like I said last year when this has happened, I've remained adamant that I just don't think you can come back from something like that. But since Punk has kind of been on the back burner, we've gotten no release, we've gotten no buyout, and we know already how in love Tony Khan is with CM Punk, who basically anointed him the greatest thing since sliced bread right there publicly in front of the world multiple times in scrums. It's got to break Tony Khan's heart a little bit that all of this happened. So maybe that injury, like we've said the whole time, was a blessing in disguise. It forced Punk on the shelf for a little while, and then you can reevaluate when he's healthy. Now, if he's healthy and ready to go and he wants to come back, but Tony Khan just decides it's just not feasible or possible or good for the company to bring him back, because like I said earlier, some talent is pro Punk, some is not. That would divide the locker room. That in and of itself, it's not just the people that are against Punk that would be affecting. It would be the people who like Punk as well, because his presence would just cause a division. Do you want a division? Do you want a division of any kind in your locker room? But think of the boost Punk could give them. Think of what WWE is doing with the Bloodline angle right now, with this amazingly compelling story we're watching with Sami and Jay and Roman and all these players. If AEW could follow that up with an equally compelling storyline that is rooted in reality, if Punk actually came back and did something with the Elite, perhaps joining up with FTR, although FTR, Dax has been chatty Cathy on his podcast, by the way. He's been doing a lot of talking, FTR podcast without Cash Wheeler. It's just Dax, and that boy likes to talk, and he talks about a lot of stuff, and their contracts are up in April. And it sounds like, I listened to a little bit of his last episode, and it does sound like FTR does have legitimate gripes with how they were used and pushed in AEW for sure. And I kind of didn't really blame Dax with a lot of what he was saying. But he is pro-Punk. And it sounds like Dax is dropping hints that WWE is probably going to be the likely landing spot for him, mentioning what he wants to do with his heart, but what his brain knows is probably the best thing. And you think about how they were used in AEW this year. They won the tag titles at Forbidden Door. What have they done since then? They've been off TV. They were number one contenders for a long time, not even on TV. They've had frustrations. They've had issues with how they've been used in AEW. And now if their contracts are coming up and they know they can get a deal on WWE, a big money deal, they're going to take that. But suppose they don't, and they stay in AEW and they can join up with CM Punk to have some sort of an angle with the Elite. If done right, it could perhaps rival or be as compelling as what they're doing with the Bloodline because of how real all of this shit is. Now, Sami and Jay are doing a great job of making you believe what they're doing is real, but here it's rooted in so much reality that, you could have a hell of a storyline that could be just the bump that AEW needs, because Dynamite this week did 899,000. So again, right in there in that 800 to 1.1 million range. I'm never going to freak out about the ratings unless it dips below or above that. I don't care. But they still have been very consistent, and they've just been hovering just under that million with crossing over that threshold a couple of times a year. They do need a boost there because they're still only 50% of WWE's ratings. They got 900,000. Raw got 1.8 or 1.9. So they're literally like half of WWE's audience. And if they want to give that a boost, a Punk return could very well do it. It did the last time, and Punk has even been touting some of the metrics and, the numbers from the YouTube videos and the ratings and shit like that in terms of his involvement in AEW. Sounds like he wants to come back, but there's just so much to consider. I don't work in AEW. I'm not in that locker room. If I was, maybe I'd have a better idea of how a Punk return would go over. And maybe it would not be enough for just Jericho and a couple of guys to really fucking hate him. That wouldn't be enough to keep him out forever. Yeah, you got to bring him in because it's good for business. But there's going to be a lot that needs to be smoothed over. Some meetings, some conversations that need to take place. Punk and the Elite, Punk and Khan, Punk and Jericho, Punk and the whole damn locker room, really. He's going to have to say something to them. Hey, by the way, I'm sorry that I won your championship at a pay-per-view, and then I flipped out on the scrum, got myself suspended, and threw the company into disarray. That's on me, because it is. So something like that, if all of that happens, then who am I to say if it's right or wrong? I'm not there, man. Maybe the talent votes. Maybe Tony Khan does an anonymous vote, but again, all that's doing is creating division. If Tony Khan allows his roster to vote if Punk comes back, and then he just goes with the winning vote, you're still going to have a lot of people that voted the other way, and just naturally it's going to cause division. And, you have to balance and you have to weigh, and this is a big decision Tony Khan has to make, and it's something that I'm sure he wasn't expecting a decision this big he has to make this early in his booking career, but he's got to decide if the controversy that Punk brings into the locker room is worth the attention and the ratings he's going to, he's going to bring to the company. And that's a decision Tony Khan is going to have to make, not us. So we will see. Just like Vince McMahon and the WWE sale, we don't really know anything yet. It's just more kind of speculating, thinking out loud, that type of stuff. Let me go over here to the chat real quick, knock out a super chat or two, and then we're going to get into some other fun stuff. Who was this one from? Clone Force 99. Appreciate that $5, man, or $4.99. What will happen to Vince if more lawsuits come in? Can there be a way for him to get out of WWE again? Because I don't want him there. I don't know. I mean, if more lawsuits, if more nasty information comes out or accusations or anything like that on Vince, I would assume that everybody probably, except for the Saudis, maybe the Saudis are the one holdout that would be okay with a Vince involvement. I would think that with all of the stuff attached to Vince, there is no way a Comcast, Amazon, Disney, or Netflix would keep Vince on. I personally don't believe that. With the tiny bit that I know about business and a lot of these companies, I personally believe that none of them would want him within an entire state of that office. I mean, he's just too gross of a dude, and he's just not something you want attached to the company that you just spent billions of dollars on. And I think the only suitor would be those Saudis who just have more money and have more money to throw around than anyone on this earth, and they certainly don't probably give a shit if Vince sticks around or not. So I think maybe that's why that is a likely landing place too. It just depends on Vince. It depends on the shareholders. It depends on what Vince can and can't do and what lawsuits could, come of this. And if Vince says, I want to sell to the Saudis, then he's got to make sure that Saudi deal is better than any other deal that they're getting, which means that Saudis are going to have to pony up for more, and they're going to have to be willing to do that too. And it kind of sounds like they are, because they've got stupid amounts of money over there. But at the end of the day, I think we all hope that Vince goes away for sure. JJ Leg, 6 months I've been doing these now? Jesus, man. Off topic, but Braun Breaker should dethrone Gunther. For the IC, huh? Braun Breaker. Maybe. I mean, Braun Breaker's still the champ, right? So he's got to drop that belt and then get to the main roster. Braun Breaker feels like he would be a perfect night after WrestleMania guy to debut, but maybe he's not ready. Maybe they want to keep him in NXT a little bit longer. I'm not really sure how WWE feels about his development. I think he's ready. He's charismatic as hell and got all the energy in the world. And if you have people like Boogs on the roster, I think Braun Breaker is more than capable of being ready for the big time. But maybe they're also trying to figure out when the best time to bring him in would be and that type of thing. And that's why I think he's going to be a post-Mania type of guy. But the one to dethrone Gunther, maybe. We have a brand new number one contender for the IC title, by the way. Madcap Moss won a fatal 4-way last night, and he'll be taking on Gunther. I'm glad. I like Madcap. Don't like his name, but think that he's a good talent. He's got potential. He's got a good look, that type of stuff. I briefly want to just shout out and pay tribute or pay homage to the amazing angle that they ran on NXT with Toxic Attraction. I loved that. They had Bayley on the show, a Ding Dong Hello segment, and they brought out Toxic Attraction, who have kind of had to battle each other a little bit since Mandy Rose's departure. They had that triple threat against Roxanne Perez, I believe, which Roxanne retained. And there has been some dissension, I suppose, between JC Jane and Gigi Dolan. So they had them both as guests on Ding Dong Hello, and I'm watching this. I'm seeing it on Twitter. I'm at work, right? So I see this, and I'm like, oh. And I see what they did, and I'm like, okay, I'll be stating the obvious here, right? If I go on Twitter and be like, holy shit, this is the barbershop. I mean, Sean's in charge of NXT. That thing was set up so perfectly. And of course, I kind of start reading the feed and everybody's like, holy shit, barbershop. Sean booked a rehash segment or a remake of the barbershop. And, maybe some fans don't like the idea of a entire segment completely redone, but I think this was pretty cool. And Ding Dong Hello, the set is kind of all bright and colorful like the barbershop was, and they got Gigi and they got JC there, and Bayley played the role of Beefcake. and got them back together. JC's even wearing the leather jacket just like Shawn, and they work out their differences. They hug, and Bayley goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, toxic attraction," and they raise each other's hand, and you can just see it. I'm like, here comes the kick. I really wish I would have been at home watching this live, because I would have been able to pick this out in 2 seconds. The minute I saw that jacket on JC Jane, I'm like, oh shit. So JC kicks Gigi Dolan, picks her up, and just like Shawn threw Marty through the glass window, or Marty trying to dive through the glass window to escape the beating from Shawn Michaels, Gigi Dolan tries to dive through the door of the Ding Dong Hello set to get away. JC throws her into the door. The door doesn't break through. It just kind of cracks. And Gigi's laying there in the corner. And then JC comes up and kicks her with the gnarliest kick to the face. And bam! And just her face and boom against the door, and just got smushed all up in the corner. And she was just like, oh, you could see she was crying. I felt bad for Gigi Dolan. I mean, she was like in literal tears. It was so well done because of the emotion and the brutality, and the fact that Gigi probably wasn't selling. That shit actually did hurt. And she's, holding her arm, holding her face, and she's crying and weeping, and JC's standing there like an asshole. Mwah! So well done. However, maybe that boot was a little stiff to Gigi, because she did post a picture on social media. Poor thing, had a big ass bruise on the side of her face. So she took a stiff one there, but it made for great TV. I'll take a black eye if the segment, if it makes the segment good. Think of Becky Lynch, the way she took that punch from Nia Jax, that made her. So, with this, I think with Gigi, this was a perfect way to split them off and go singles with them. Gigi, I guess, will be babyface. JC, obviously, the heel. They'll probably have a little feud now in NXT, and maybe one or both of them will show up on the main roster after WrestleMania, or they might hang around, a few more months and hang out there through the summer in NXT. Really not sure, but excellent stuff from Toxic Attraction on NXT. I don't watch a lot of NXT. I just barely pay attention to it. But whenever they have a good match or a segment, I always want to mention it, because that was good stuff. And let me think. The barbershop segment would have been, I guess, 92, early 92, late 91. So shit, I would have been it was 31 years ago, man. Something like that is when that segment took place. And I was just a teenager. I was like in 10th grade. Crazy. So good stuff there from NXT. Also, it's worth noting here, WWE hired a new backstage personality. Blake Chadwick started this week. He's going to be known as Blake Howard in the company. He's done work for several independent companies in the past, including WrestleCade, Ring Warriors, West Coast Wrestling Connection, Combat Fights Unlimited, Camp Leapfrog, and VCW. So we'll see how this dude does. I've not even seen a picture of him. Don't even know what he looks like, but new hire in WWE, and maybe we'll see him behind a Raw commentary booth one of these days, because KP just ain't cutting it for me. All right, that does it for the news here. Let's look into some wrestling results. Let's talk about Dynamite. Dynamite this past week. By the way, I did not watch Rampage last night at all. I have not watched the last 4 Rampages. Just haven't seen them. Haven't had time. So hopefully Rampage was good last night. You guys can tell me if it was. Dynamite this past Wednesday was phenomenal, and I was not here to watch it. Really annoyed me, but we had some really good stuff on that show. First match was MJF actually getting in the ring and wrestling an eliminator match against Konosuke Takeshita. This was all kinds of great. Really good stuff. I kind of like the fact that MJF doesn't get in the ring all the time. And this was a really fun match that MJF won clean, which he didn't do anything that shady to win this match. That top rope clothesline spot they did was phenomenal, where Takeshita does that top rope clothesline that usually takes his opponents out, but MJF was able to flip completely over and land on his feet in a phenomenal spot in the middle of the match. That was good. In the end, MJF is able to lock on an arm bar, and he really cinches up on it. Takeshita, I think, even kind of counters out of it, but MJ is able to reapply it, roll over, and really start hyperextending the arm. Takeshita taps out, and after the victory, MJF goes into his trunks, pulls out the diamond ring, puts it on his finger, and blasts Takeshita in the head, which he goes down, and right on the hard camera, blades, the camera caught him. Camera caught that for about 1 second before cutting away, and we'll talk about the blood issues in AEW in a minute. So the match with Takeshita and MJF was really, really good. Maybe they didn't need the Diamond Ring segment at the end, but I also think they're trying to keep the issue with MJF and Takeshita alive, because they can always revisit this down the road, because Takeshita is a rising star. And much like Ricky Starks, who also had a good outing against MJF but fell short, one of those two guys might be the one who's going to revisit MJF down the road several months when they're ready to take the belt off of him, because somebody's going to have to rise up from the babyface side, and it can't be Moxley again. And I don't even think, honestly, it can be Hangman Page again. I'd like to see Hangman Page win the TNT title. But MJF, I think somebody who hasn't been AEW champion yet needs to take the belt off of him, unless CM Punk comes back or something like that, or unless maybe it's Kenny. If Kenny Omega and the Bucks re-up with the company, I would love Kenny to be, the company guy or the top babyface on that side, but there's a lot of unknowns there too. But at some point, MJF's going to have to drop that belt, and I hate to discredit Bryan Danielson, because he's set now for the Iron Man match at Revolution. It's just, I don't think you take the belt off of MJF yet. I think he's going to retain somehow against Danielson. But if I'm wrong, then that just means Danielson's the champion, and that's also fine. So at least for me personally, Greg is sitting in a really good spot for Revolution, because I'm cool with no matter what they do. MJF wins, great. He probably should win and continue his run. But if Danielson wins, then we get to live in a world where Danielson's world champion, and that's not so bad either. So there's been worse times to be a wrestling fan, that's for sure. Now, this match was enough and crazy enough as it was, right? Then we get a post-match interview. This is maybe a few segments later in the night. And MJF, I forget the girl's name who was interviewing, he was like, come on in. He's in the locker room. He's sitting down. And he just goes on to cut this brutal promo and talking about how, you have to do what you have to do to get ahead. And he's going to expose Danielson for somebody who can't do that or whatever the fuck. And then he says, let me explain to you, how I get ahead in life. And he says, one time when, I was a kid and I had this beautiful girlfriend named Liv. There's actually been pictures of him and Liv Morgan floating around social media lately too, which is funny. And he said his junior high girlfriend named Liv, who loved him a lot. And he had this blue Camaro that he was driving around, but he had a ton of speeding tickets. And if he gets one more speeding ticket, that means he will lose the ability to drive. And that would be the worst thing ever, right? So one night after their junior high dance or whatever, they're driving home and it's raining and he's going 90 miles an hour. 90 miles an hour when it's raining, that's smart. And he hydroplaned at 90 mph right into a tree and saw that Liv was breathing, but not dead. And he could hear the cop sirens. You could hear the cars or the sirens from the cops. You hear the police on the way. And so he took Liv's lifeless body and switched seats with her and put her in the driver's seat and saved himself from getting a ticket and his license. So that was just really a specific story to tell that is kind of out of nowhere. I guess it was just him illustrating what a scumbag he is, which we already knew that, really trying to hammer home that he is a dirty, dirty human, a dirty piece of shit, a dirty heel. I liked it, but it was just kind of, I didn't think it was really over the top. I don't know if I would be talking about car collisions this soon after you know what. That might be the only thing I'll say about it there. But I wasn't really thinking about that. My mind didn't automatically go to Jay Briscoe. My mind went to, wow, what a crazy story to tell. And the fact that he dropped the fact that the girl's name was Liv in there, which I thought was funny. Just something for us fans. And apparently there was some rumors that were then debunked, but now we're not sure. Apparently some fans called the police on MJF, and the police said that they will look into it, but they're pretty sure it's a wrestling angle. They're going to look into it. They're going to make sure it's a wrestling angle and make sure that MJF wasn't telling the truth there. So I thought that was funny. But that was good. That was just MJF just being the heelest motherfucker that he possibly could, and I kind of got a kick out of that. Then later on in the night, Danielson, he had to face Rush. Now, this is going to be the final test. If Danielson can beat Rush, then the match with MJF is official for Revolution Iron Man match. He's had to win every match all month of January, ever since, the beginning of the year, all the way up until February 8th. Now he's faced Rush in his final encounter, and Danielson is in the back with Takeshita in the locker room when you hear, like, the door close. And they have closed Danielson in Takeshita's locker room, and locked him in there. Meanwhile, Rush is making his way to the ring. Danielson can hear his music from the locker room. And Rush is in the ring. MJF then comes down to the ring and is like, I've been looking at the rule book, and, according to the rules, if Danielson isn't here, then it's a forfeit. And he makes Aubrey start counting. You need to count to 10. And if Danielson can't make it to the ring, then this match is over. So Aubrey counts, but she purposely, looking right at MJF too, she purposely counts really slow. She's like, 1. And then just waits. And he's like, count faster. And she's like, no, fuck you. So they show a split screen in the locker room, and Danielson is trying to bash through the locker room door. Finally, he busts through it, and he falls right in front of, I think, Preston and Jose. And Takeshita is in there, too, with his head all bandaged up. He comes flying through the door. He takes out Preston and neutralizes Jose, allowing Danielson to get to the ring, running down there, and he gets to the ring before Aubrey finishes her 10 count, and he makes it in, and the match starts. So now Rush and Danielson have to have a match, and it turns out to be one of the better matches we've seen this year so far. Very early February match of the year coming in from AEW. I feel like we say this regarding Danielson or Rush or a lot of these guys, Takeshita, Mox, every week on Dynamite, but this one was especially good, especially bloody. Again with the blood. Danielson's opened up pretty good. I think he got opened up on one of those barricade spots on the outside of the ring, and he was bleeding very badly. In the end, he's able to hit the running knees on Rush and get the victory in just an insanely good match. And right after we saw a pretty good one with Takeshita and MJF, don't forget, and there'll be another good one later in the trios thing. So that we'll talk about. So Danielson wins. The match is now official. MJF then comes in the ring. He hits Danielson with the diamond ring, and he locks in the salt of the earth. And now, of course, we have the Iron Man match set for Revolution. So Revolution will be interesting because they're having an Iron Man match on the show. So that's 1 hour. They're going to have a lot less matches on this card. A lot of these AEW pay-per-views have had, 12, 13, 14 matches on them? They're not going to be able to do that this time unless they have a 5-hour show. But the last few pay-per-views, I think Tony Khan has kept them within the 4-hour confines. So all the fans complaining, the shows are too long. I'm like, not really. 4-hour show 4 times a year from AEW. You can't handle that. Sorry, you're a huge vagina. Hate to tell you. But I don't think this pay-per-view needs to be 5 hours, 5.5 hours. So if you're going to have an Iron Man match, you're going to have less matches on this card. I think you're probably looking at an 8-match card here at the most, if one of those matches is going to take up an entire hour. So we'll see when the Revolution card starts coming together. Like I said, I think it's going to be MJF retaining the belt somehow. Hopefully he'll have some really, really dirty trick up his sleeve or try to find some sort of way out of that Iron Man match with winning in some sleazy way. He might have some sort of a plan where if he's down or if he's injured and, somebody runs out to the ring and just, Big Bill or somebody like that and just fucks Danielson up and then just bring him in the ring and pin him one time after the other or one fall after the other until he wins. Something shady I think he's going to have to do. Otherwise, we're going to have Danielson as a world champion, which that makes me very, very happy, but it doesn't really fit in line with kind of the direction they're going right now. So I feel like MJF will probably retain, but who knows, man? Who knows? Now, the Danielson match with Rush and the Takeshita blade job at the end of the MJF match got the fans talking again. A lot of, quite frankly, boring ass discourse about blood. Is there too much blood in AEW? Now, we've talked about AEW having excessive blood before. I have gone on record plenty of times and said that I don't think it would hurt AEW if they toned it back a bit. If they had a little less blood, I don't think it would make their product any less enjoyable. I've definitely admitted that and understood that. However, I'm finding the blood arguments a little bit silly because I feel like not all the time. One of the people that was had a lot of things to say about the blood was Raj Giri. Now, Raj is a guy that I respect. And so, if he's going to have a take on the blood, I'm going to listen to him because he's not a child, But the rest of the blood takes, it feels like most of those are just simply rooted and centered around the tribalism. If you don't like AEW, you are not going to like their blood. If you're the type of person that complains about AEW all the time online, I guarantee you found some weird reason to not think the blood was okay. These are the very same people who 12 years ago were teenagers and were complaining about John Cena for being too much like Barney and being too much for kids and being too lame and PG and stupid, and WWE never has any blood. People used to complain about WWE never blading and having blood ever in their matches and how it wasn't realistic and this type of stuff. Now these same people, all these years later, since they've been programmed to not like a specific company, because that's the effect social media has on weak people, they are going to hate the blood. I'm like, well, wait a minute, what is it here? You know, because the type of people that seem to hate AEW are the ones that don't like woke stuff and snowflakes and all that stuff. So why is blood so offensive to you all of a sudden? That's why I don't believe that it's the blood you have a problem with. It's the company you have a problem with. If you hate AEW, you're not going to like their blood. Me personally, I don't give a shit, man. It's like the same thing with the long pay-per-views. What is with these wrestling fans acting like such vagines? Oh my God, blood, it hurts my eyes. And don't pretend you care about the kids. You don't. So the kids aren't going to be scarred by this. They see blood in TV and movies all the time. Not a big deal. I like blood in wrestling. Makes it grittier, makes it edgier, makes it a little bit more, you know, violent, I suppose. And if you're going to have two competing North American wrestling companies, I would like those two companies to be doing different things. I would like to see one kind of be an alternative to the other or vice versa. And we know the product we get from WWE, and AEW has got a lot of great talent there, so they're going to do some stuff that WWE doesn't do, like the blood. They might overdo it a bit. Sure, if they want to remove blood from 1 or 2 matches a month, cool. No problem. But I don't think that it's so excessive to the point where I think it's a problem. A lot of people were pointing out and complaining about the blade jobs you could see. Oh, you could see them blading. I could spot a blade job when I was 8. 8. I saw that shit happening. It's nothing new. I think maybe the production could do a little better. I think maybe a quicker cutaway from Takeshita. Or if there's going to be blood, and you know there's going to be blood, let whoever AEW's Kevin Dunn know this, or whoever AEW's version of Kevin Dunn, that dude, let him know, hey, we're going to be blading here. It's going to come this spot. Try to keep the camera off of it or whatever, or cut away, or just be more mindful of that, I suppose. But in terms of there being too much blood, I don't know. If I'm a wrestling fan in my 30s, I just am not getting offended by blood. And I'm not getting offended at age 45 either. I don't understand why anybody is getting offended by it, which is why I believe so strongly that it's not the blood they're offended by, it's AEW's presence that they're offended by. So naturally, everything they do, they're going to have a huge problem with it, and they're going to try to make up reasons for their issues to make sense when they don't, and they're hypocritical, and they go against everything they've probably always wanted in their lives up until now. They've wanted all these things, but now that it's AEW giving it to them, they don't want it. So I guess I'm trying to be as fair about this as possible. I'm trying to look at it from the side of the argument that says there's too much blood in AEW. I think if they cut down the blood, it would be fine, and their product wouldn't be any less believable or impressive. But with the amount of blood they have, also isn't enough to really set me over the edge. I don't have some blood issue or some moral issue with the blood. I don't understand where this stuff comes from wrestling fans when we've seen some crazy stuff in wrestling, some crazy storylines, some violent stuff. And like I said, I really find it funny when it's the anti-woke crowd that has problems with this stuff. I'm like, this sounds like something a snowflake would say. That's all I'm saying. So I don't get the blood discourse. I think it was a lot of arguing and much ado about nothing. AEW bleeds. Greg would prefer if the cameras would stay off the blade jobs. But then again, I have watched many wrestlers ever since I was a little goddamn child cut their foreheads with razor blades. I've seen it countless times on TV from all the greats, from the Hogans, the Savages, the Bret Harts, everybody. I've seen them all do it. I don't really see anything being different now. But from a production standpoint, I think you should try to hide that as best as possible. I mean, all the fans in the crowd are going to have cell phones and they're going to videotape you anyway. But for the TV audience, it would be nice if you just didn't get a close-up of somebody going whoosh, like Takeshita does, or he did on Wednesday night. So I think if anything, my issue with it is that. Don't make it so obvious. But then again, blade jobs are pretty easy to spot unless they're under the ring or they're really hidden or they're completely out of sight of the camera. You can tell when it's happening and you know that they're doing it. So Greg is cool with the blood. You know what? I missed the Jamie Hayter and Bunny match. I did not see it. Bunny got injured, right? Apparently Bunny got hurt in that. She might have broken her orbital bone or had some sort of bad injury. Best of luck to Bunny. I think that match ended early with Hayter winning, so that was a little crazy. That segment they did backstage with Toni Storm, Saraya, and Leva Bates was fucking terrible. That was terrible. That was just terrible. I don't know where they're going with Saraya and Storm, if they're trying to be like an NWO, menace type of team here or alliance. I don't know, and I like both of them. I think Toni Storm's awesome. I'm very happy to see Saraya doing something in wrestling, getting in the ring and having a career. That's awesome for her. But that segment was shit. So AEW, don't do that again. The Guevara-Garcia, or the Garcia-Guevara gauntlet match was fun. Starks had to go through the gauntlet if he wants another shot at Jericho, which is really crazy why he would even need another shot at Jericho since he beat Jericho. Isn't that what it's for? Isn't that what he has to earn here? He wants a match with Jericho. It's just something to keep Ricky Starks busy, I suppose. And he's got to go through all the members, I guess, of the JAS. He beats Parker and Menard and Daddy Magic pretty quickly, and then has to face Daniel Garcia. Now, there's a gentleman in the front row wearing a lucha mask and an Acclaimed t-shirt. He was out there all night. I think he was there from the beginning of the show, right? And as Starks is thrown to the outside, this guy gets up and hits Starks with a Judas effect. Hits him with a Judas effect, throws him back in the ring. Garcia gets the win. Jericho comes in the ring, removes the mask, reveals it's him. And that was pretty good stuff, especially since Jericho stayed out there the whole time. The 6-man match was crazy. So again, like the matches we had on this show, 3 really great ones. Takeshita and MJF was a great opener. Danielson and Rush was stupidly good. And then this one was full of all sorts of nutso stuff too. The Elite defeated Top Flight and AR Fox in a crazy good match, and a match that made me very worried for the Ass Boys and the Acclaimed later on. So that was really good. So all in all, Dynamite, even though the tag team title match that we're going to talk about here in a minute did not please fans, when you look at the quality of the action that we got in the ring from an in-ring perspective, Dynamite has been on fucking fire for the past few months. They really have. Even when you have a Dynamite that just has kind of an okay, so-so card, you're still guaranteed to get great wrestling. And as wrestling fans, that's good. A lot of people who think AEW doesn't have stories, sure they do. They've been telling you one every damn week between MJF and Danielson. You've got a lot of issues that are even being teased and kind of possibly going to be revisited down the road or whatever. So you have stories there. And I think MJF and Danielson is a pretty good one at the end of the day. And then another one that they have, we got, this great organically over team like the Acclaimed, who's probably the most overact in the company overall. They get incredible response from the fans. They are very over tag team champions. I personally don't believe it would be time to take the belts off of them. However, they were really making it seem in the build up to this that Billy Gunn was going to turn. Billy Gunn was going to turn on the Acclaimed and join up with his boys and help them win the tag team championships. So a lot of fans were surprised at the outcome here, but also a lot of fans did predict that this was going to happen, just maybe not in a particular way. They kind of swerved us. AEW made you believe that they were going to do a Billy turn, but then they didn't do it. So Ass Boys and Acclaimed are in the ring. We get the big ref bump, one of the best ref bumps that we've seen. That poor guy, I forget his name, he went flying out of the ring, and Billy Gunn actually came in the ring, and this is when you thought it was going to happen. He lifted up Anthony Bowens for one of the Ass Juniors, to hit him with the belt, or he was lifting him up, and I think it might have been Austin, and he came running with the belt, and then Billy stopped him, and he goes, no, and he got taken out by his own son. So that would have been the turn. If the turn was going to happen, it would have been right there, and they swerved us. So Billy did not turn. He actually stopped his sons from cheating and got taken out by them. So by then, the ref gets thrown back in. I think there's a near fall there, and then Bowens goes for an Okada roll on Austin, but Austin kicks out, and he lands right in the ropes, and Colton is down there with the belt, and he smacks Bowens right in the head with the belt. He falls back in the ring. Austin falls on top of Anthony Bowens to pin him, and the Guns, without the help from their dad, cheat to win the AEW tag team titles, and the fans' reaction in the crowd was priceless. A lot of, holy shit, what the fuck? I don't know what the fans were so surprised about. I think it was maybe the fact that we didn't get a Billy turn, and we still got the Ass Boys winning the titles, that I will say did surprise me. And that's a decision I'm not sure if I would have made. I would have maybe done the turn because I predicted this last week. I said Billy's going to turn, join up with his sons. I think that would be cool if he did that. And in the framework of that, I was okay with the Guns winning the titles. But how they did it here, I'm kind of in the agreement with the fans. I'm not sure if I like this. But what I do like about it is that I like that I don't like it. And I like the fans don't like it. I like the fact that the fans are pissed that a heel team cheated to beat a babyface team. You know why? Because that's called wrestling. Now you guys know how I felt when the Hearts cheated to beat the Bulldogs. And I was very mad at those heels. Grr heels, evil heels. They're heels, man. You know, and I feel like, and that's what's lost in today's wrestling, because I do the same thing. I'm not accusing any of you or anybody else. I'm the same way. But when you see a booking decision like that, your brain isn't watching it as a wrestling match. If, bad guys beat good guys, you're immediately questioning, I wouldn't have taken the belts off of them that soon, or Tony Khan made a big mistake there. I'm like, we're not supposed to be thinking about it that way, but that's just the way the business is now. And back in the day, when I would see an upset or a match that I didn't like or a heel would win, I wasn't cursing Vince McMahon and the bookers backstage. I was fucking 12. What did I care, man? I didn't have any idea what the hell the difference was. It was just a heel team using heel tactics to cheat and win a championship like heels do. And fans are very mad at these heels chanting bullshit. But unfortunately, it's like they're not mad at the Ass Boys. They're mad at the booking. And that's just what's effed up. So it just makes everything weird. I probably would not have put the belts on the Ass Boys without Billy turning. However, at the end of the day, I'm always trying to be fair here. I feel happy for Billy. Billy Gunn is a guy who made his entire career as a tag team wrestler. He was going nowhere, on the verge of release. Came in as a tag team wrestler, multiple tag teams with Bart, but once that split happened, he was doing nothing. He was useless. He was Billy Gunn, Rockabilly, whatever he was. He was bottom end of the card. There was just no use for Billy Gunn whatsoever. And then he fell ass backwards into another piece of talent that they had no use for and nothing to do with, and that was Road Dogg. And they came together and formed one of the greatest tag teams, won the championship on a Raw where I sat in the front row beating the LOD, or in the fourth row, ringside, when they beat the LOD in 1997, and would go on to have a Hall of Fame career after that, winning all those championships, putting Outlaws on the list of greatest tag teams of all time, having a run in DX, multiple runs with the IC title, various times in his career, multiple repackages, multiple tag team partners, multiple tag team championship victories with multiple partners, then becoming a trainer in NXT, going into AEW and being able to see his boys work there, succeed there, and win a set of tag team championships just like he did. From a father's perspective, is kind of got to be cool for Billy. Wouldn't you say? So for Billy, I'm happy. But maybe when you have an act as over as the Acclaimed, I'm not sure if I'm pulling the plug on that just yet, because a lot of fans now feel like with the Ass Boys winning, this is setting up FTR to come back. But I'm not so sure. Like I said, Chatty Cathy Harwood over there on his podcast has had a lot of things to say, and he's kind of been dropping some hints that AEW might not be in their long-term future. The Ass Boys were the last guys I think FTR feuded with when they were on TV, right? So at least the story is there with them already. But I kind of think you should have the Acclaimed win. That was what I pitched when I first started sniffing out this potential Billy turn. I'm like, what they should do is have Billy Gunn turn on the Acclaimed, join up with his sons, help them win the tag team titles, and almost like kind of give it to them as a present to Billy. Here, you get to watch your sons be tag team champions. It's going to be short-lived. We're going to book a rematch at Revolution. Acclaimed will win the belts back. And if you remember when the Acclaimed won the titles, the night that they didn't win them, I think it was All Out, and they didn't win the belts, and a lot of fans were like, holy shit, you should have put them over there. But they waited to do it at the Arthur Ashe show, and they made it right. Maybe they make this right. Maybe Tony Khan sees the reaction and is like, let's book a return. Let's run it back. Revolution. Acclaimed wins the belts back, and then all is right with the world. So I think the Gun Club and the Acclaimed is probably a likely match for Revolution. I don't think it's going to be FTR because the Acclaimed got cheated out of their titles. They're going to need a rematch. So I think that Billy turn that we're all expecting, I bet you they do it there. I mean, even though it would make no sense. I mean, he already got beat up by his sons in this title match. They said some terrible things to each other in that promo last week about drowning your sorrows in a pill bottle and things like that. It would be hard to rationalize how Billy would just, do a complete 180 there and then join up with his sons. But the way wrestling works, I feel like that could be an option if we do get that return. If we get the return match between the Acclaimed and the Ass Boys at Revolution, in my opinion, there's no way the Ass Boys can win that match without help from their dad turning. So I think that Billy turn might still come. But if it doesn't, then it will be, maybe it will be the Acclaimed winning the belts back. I'm not of the belief yet that it's just over for the Acclaimed. They're too over. But Tony Khan has pulled the plug before. Wardlow was over, and look what happened to him. So this is kind of what Tony Khan does, and that's one of the things about his booking that isn't perfect and he needs to work on, is when somebody starts building momentum, don't pull the plug on them and keep them off TV. I mean, if the Acclaimed is now going to be absent for 3 weeks, or they're not even going to be back on TV again until Revolution, that momentum and all that stuff's going to start going away, and you're going to wonder what the hell Tony Khan is thinking. So if I'm in TK's booking shoes, I'm booking this match again at Revolution, and I either turn Billy fully so the Ass Boys can retain, or I'm giving the belts back to the very, very over Acclaimed. So we will see on Dynamite and in AEW what they wind up doing with that, but very, very unhappy fans with that tag team title win, which was kind of funny. Let's talk about this past week's Raw briefly. I didn't come up here, or we weren't up here this past Monday to do a Raw watch along, because last Sunday we did a double header watch along, a lot of hours of wrestling watching. We watched Monday Nitro from August 4th, 1997 during the day. And then last Sunday we watched WrestleMania 4 at night. So I needed a day off last Monday, so I was not up here to watch Raw, watch Raw with you guys, but I did watch most of the show, and I loved the Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman promo. They sold me on WrestleMania. They really did. They got into a lot of personal stuff here, and it was really well done. And like I said earlier, talking about Sami Zayn and the Bloodline and Cody and all of that, Triple H, I trust him a lot more than Vince McMahon to be able to see these potential problems with Cody being sabotaged and the fans wanting Sami. So booking Elimination Chamber and booking Cody Roman has to be done carefully so you don't, run into any of those sorts of problems. And I think they took a big step in the right direction on Monday with these two, and Cody and Heyman in the ring, Cody bringing up the ECW spot that Dusty did, and it felt so genuine. I think it was Meltzer. I think Fightful Select might have had a report about this as well, about how Cody and Heyman really handled their own promos on their own, but they really fit together when they said them to one another. And apparently Heyman was not aware of Cody going to bring up his dad in ECW. And you saw both men crying. It was really crazy. Cody talked about how broke his family was, and this is pretty well documented. Cody's mentioned this before. Dusty's mentioned it before, that he ran into some problems there in the 90s financially, and they didn't have a lot of money, and they were almost out of money. And that's when Paul Heyman contacted Dusty and said, will you make an appearance? And if you do, I'll pay you well. And Cody said Heyman kept his word, and he paid his dad, and he really helped save Cody's family, got them out of the hole, got them out of debt. And from there, the family was able to go on and make money again and never have a financial problem ever again. And he credited a lot of that to Paul Heyman and thanked him. And Heyman got tripped up by that. He was choked up. He was surprised. He was like, wow, I wasn't expecting you to hit me with that. And that's one of the cool things about Paul Heyman that I think a lot of young fans don't understand and maybe don't know, is that Paul Heyman has some sort of a relationship with, if there's any second or third or fourth generation stars, any of them in the entire business right now, regardless of what company they're in, chances are Paul Heyman has had some sort of personal history or relationship with that wrestler's father or mother or grandfather or whatever. I mean, he runs that deep, with the Rhodeses and with Roman's family. I mean, Heyman has history with both. He has history with so many people, and his time in wrestling goes so far back, all the way back to Vince McMahon Sr. and being backstage at Madison Square Garden, that famous picture with that little shit sitting right in the middle of Classy Freddie Blassie, Lou Albano, and the Grand Wizard when he was a teenager. It's like this guy, his influence is so deep in wrestling that he really can sell matches on his own because he has some sort of personal element to implement or involve in the storyline here. And when Cody brought that up, Heyman acknowledged that. He's like, I wasn't expecting, you to say that. And he put over Dusty and how much he respected and loved Dusty. And then at the very end of it, he tells Cody, your dad told me how proud he was of you and that you were his favorite son, but that Roman Reigns was the son he never had, or the son he wished he had. And that's when Cody grabbed Heyman by the hand and shook his hand, and Heyman's like, ow, ow. And he's like, look, all I'm trying to do is win a wrestling championship. He's like, but you made it personal. And it's not going to be you that's going to pay for that. It's going to be your boy, Roman Reigns. And I'm like, oh, that's so good. That's so good. And because even though I like Cody and everything Cody's done since he's come back to WWE, I've been a little bit worried about the match with Roman too because of the looming Bloodline and Sami Zayn stuff. But, if that stuff resolves itself in a satisfying way, I am now sold on WrestleMania based on the promo that Heyman and Cody delivered on Monday. And Meltzer had said that Heyman wasn't even originally booked to be in that segment. But since he's at TV anyway, handling creative for, Brock and Ronda and Roman or whatever it was, they decided to put him out there with Cody instead of Cody talking by himself. And that was a fantastic decision. Vince might have not made that same decision. He would have just had Cody come out there and say, let me tell her, what do you want to talk about? Or whatever he says. And then just go on to ramble about nonsense, which I'm sure is going to be very good, but at the same time, not going to be that compelling because it's stuff we've heard from Cody before. So having Heyman out there with him and that whole setup, that was good. They made me want to see Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes now. And that's masterful booking by Triple H. Like I said, he's found himself in a spot here where I trust him a hell of a lot more than Vince McMahon, and I trust him to not be stupid. And he sees these potential problems with Sami and everything, and he's going to make sure that Elimination Chamber is booked in a way that's not going to make us pissed at Cody in any way. Cody's not going to receive any backlash from this storyline that he doesn't deserve. Where if Vince was in charge, he'd probably have things all inverted and backwards or completely fuck over Cody in the long run. So based on that promo on Monday, that was really good. We got Elimination Chamber coming up next week. Go home on this Monday. That was really good. I want to see more of that stuff. We also had the Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley segment. I guess Lashley's got like a contract for the Elimination Chamber, and Lesnar came out and, they brawled or whatever. No contract ever got signed. They have another segment set for this Monday where apparently they're going to sign some sort of a contract, but unless they're going to do two matches, EC and Mania, I don't see these two working at Elimination Chamber. I see them working at WrestleMania. So they might do some sort of just regular match between them at Elimination Chamber that it's just a schmoz or something, and then they run something back with a stip at WrestleMania, because I've been calling for a Hell in the Cell match between these two this entire time, ever since last year, or ever since Brock and Bobby got together. But maybe it's something else. It could be like a fight pit match or something MMA related. I think they might also be setting up Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey to do the same thing, which is kind of interesting to have two women and two men facing each other in singles matches, all four of which have MMA experience. That's pretty cool. So there could be a fight pit thing. I think Hell in the Cell would be really fun, but apparently whatever this contract they're going to attempt to sign on Monday is not for Mania, it's for the Chamber. So I feel like we might get Brock and Lashley at the Chamber, maybe in a one-on-one match, and the match never gets underway. They just fight the whole time, and both guys kick the shit out of each other, and it's just a no contest. And then they have to say, oh, the only way to contain these two is to put them in a cell or something like that, So we'll see what they do on Monday, but feels like it'll be something like that. And then Lita this past week kind of randomly returned out of nowhere to show up and help Becky Lynch win the cage match against Bayley. And with Lita coming back in, you have to wonder if maybe Trish will be not far behind her, and they could appear possibly at Elimination Chamber. Maybe they could even challenge for the tag team championships, or maybe Trish and Lita could be involved in WrestleMania in some way. We could always see that as well. SmackDown last night was an okay show, and a lot of it, of course, was surrounded and centered around the Bloodline stuff. So the Bloodline segments that we saw, like I said earlier, we saw Paul Heyman tell Jimmy Uso that Roman has requested that the Usos stay away from the Chamber. The reason he gave was really weird. He said, sometimes when you watch on TV, you see more than what you see when you're live. So Roman wants some eyes to watch the live broadcast. And so that right there tells me that's a way to try to eliminate the Usos. That way when Jay shows up at the match, it can kind of be a surprise because Jimmy's not going to know where Jay is because they haven't really been talking much. And I feel like that's the groundwork they're laying there. We had a Paul Heyman promo in the ring where Sami Zayn showed up in a hoodie and got in Heyman's face and rattled him a little bit. He said Roman Reigns has 8 days left and he's not even going to have to worry about Cody because I'm going to be the one to take him down, and gives Heyman a big, creepy hug, which was great. Heyman had great segments this week on TV with Cody and Sami. Excellent stuff there. That was a lot of fun. And then, of course, the Usos were set to defend the tag team titles against Ricochet and Braun Strowman, but Jay has been absente. He's been missing and nobody's heard from him. And even Paul Heyman backstage prior to the match tells Jimmy, I think you're going to have to go this one alone. He does. He comes to the ring alone, gets to the introductions alone. And that's when Jay appears in the crowd. He starts walking down. The smile on Jimmy's face told a great story. And Jay showed up to back up his brother and defend their tag team championships. They did defeat Ricochet and Braun Strowman to retain, which was great. And backstage after the match, they showed Jay walking in the parking garage and Sami is waiting for him. So it's the first time we've seen Sami Zayn and Jey Uso together since Royal Rumble. And Jay thanks him. I never got a chance to thank you for what you did for me at the Royal Rumble. And I just want you to know I acknowledge you, he says, and knows that he's in a tight spot. And in the end, Jay gives him a little fist bump and walks away. And like, that was so good because, you know, you can tell that Jay likes Sami. He cares for Sami. He is in one hell of a predicament here with his cousin Roman Reigns and the tribal chief. He's tag team champions. He's got a lot of pressure. He's obviously got a big decision to make here very soon in his life, whether or not to stay with the bloodline or to turn on Sami. They're setting that whole thing up. And then you got to remember, too, Jay was very anti-Sami leading up to this. He's only recently become pro-Sami. And when you look at that image of the two of them that I put on the thumbnail here, you know, of them, you know, fist bumping and looking at each other, when this whole thing runs its course, man, Sami and Jey Uso are going to be stars. I don't know. I mean, I think Jay could even potentially work singles after this. A lot of fans are expecting him to turn on Sami, remain with the bloodline. But even if he doesn't, you could get another Roman Reigns and Jey Uso match down the line. Who knows? You could get Jimmy and Jay one-on-one against each other. You could have Solo and Jay. And I'm happy for both of those guys because Jay's a great worker. I think both the Usos, all I'm going to say to them is I don't think I'll ever forgive either one of them if they fuck up again. When you think about where they are right now, the longevity of their tag team title run, and the fact that both of them have had some, issues before, I'd hate for that to come back because, and I don't want to be cynical, but like, man, how many times do we have to go through that with Jeff Hardy? And, every time you thought it was over, and here he is doing it again. And it would be such terrible timing if anything like that happened. But aside from that stuff out of the ring, in the ring, and on TV, Jay and both Usos have been, a couple of the best wrestlers they've had in the company. And I would love for Jay, based on his work here in this angle, to be able to get some sort of a singles push out of this in the future. And Sami, look at him. 1 year ago, dude's in the ring wrestling the entire Jackass cast. This year, he's going to be one of the biggest stars on WrestleMania. He's going to get one of the biggest ovations. And here's one thing I want to see for Sami Zayn. I want him to come out to his old music. And I can't decide if it would be better for him to come out to his old music in Montreal at the Elimination Chamber in front of his hometown. Imagine that. Gives me chills. Or if you wait until WrestleMania and do it. Either way, it's going to be epic. Either way, you're going to have the entire audience singing along to the tune of his song. And this is all assuming Triple H is watching my podcast. He usually does. He usually texts me, "Hey, good podcast today, champ." And I thank him. Thanks, Trips. So hopefully he's watching. Triple H, seriously, Hunter, for real. That old music, Sami Zayn's old music, he needs to come out to the ring to that. Whether it be Elimination Chamber or Mania. Mania tends to do the special entrances, so maybe it's better there. Because I don't know if they necessarily go back to his old theme, but they could. His new theme's fine. It grew on me. I'm fine with it. But His old one would be great. His old one would be great either for Elimination Chamber or WrestleMania. Which one would you prefer? Also, both is also acceptable. I'd be fine with both. But I feel like if they saved it for WrestleMania, even though we might miss out on it in Montreal, imagine that special entrance. Owens and Zayn maybe coming out separately, but Zayn coming out to his theme would be pretty awesome at WrestleMania. But I want to see it one way or the other. I think it would be a lot of fun if they did that. So I forgot my train of thought here, but with Roman and Sami Zayn at WrestleMania, or I'm sorry, at the Elimination Chamber, Sami coming out of this way better off than he was a year ago. Like I said, last year he's in the ring with the Jackass crew. This year at WrestleMania, he's probably going to be winning gold with his best friend against the Usos, potentially even in the main event of night one. A lot of fans feel that if that match happens, it needs to be in the main event. I agree. But you also got Charlotte and Ripley, man. And if Ripley's going to go over, I kind of would want that to be the main event. But I think the tag team match kind of deserves the spot more because Ripley and Charlotte, even though they have a shit ton of history, that's just a Rumble winner that came together challenging a challenger like that. Sami and Owens going against the Usos would have so much more story to it. And you think about it, it would probably, would the WWE do that? Would it be complete demise of the Bloodline? If Sami and Owens and the Usos main evented night one, that means if you assume that Cody's going to win the title, the Bloodline's going to go down all across the board. The Usos and Roman are all 6 of those championship belts. They have 6 of them. Those guys are going to walk out with none after night one, a complete destruction of the Bloodline. We may see that. Maybe a reset. Roman takes time off. Who knows? Cody's our new champion, new direction. I don't know. It's possible that Roman retains and beats Cody Rhodes. Who knows? I don't even know what the freaking right answer here is, man. But it's going to be good stuff. I don't know what matches really deserve yet. We got to get through Elimination Chamber first, I think, before we start worrying about which match should main event what night. But for the fans that think the tag team match should main event one of the nights of WrestleMania, specifically night one, I agree. But I also think it doesn't have to, because some fans, it's like it's all or nothing. So even though I agree that, it would be awesome if the tags main evented WrestleMania, if they don't, I'm not going to be like, this is bullshit. They should be main event. Like, I don't fucking care. So yeah, they can main event WrestleMania. Sure. They go on first. Also, sure. I don't care. As long as it's a moment, it's a great moment for Sami and Owens, and you get that payoff and the tag team title victory. I honestly don't care that much where it lies on the card. It could lie on night 2 with the main event for all I care. But we'll see. There's a lot of matches that WWE has to book and then decide where they should all fit on their respective cards. So the Bloodline stuff last night was really good, and it continues to be the best story WWE has done in a long time, in a really, really long time, because it's been compelling, it's been good, it's had multiple layers, multiple chapters, a lot of character development, a lot of self-discovery for some of these talents, and a lot of them are changing right before our very eyes, and this whole storyline has made a star out of virtually everybody. It's put Solo over as an Umaga-like force to be reckoned with, dangerous muscle, kind of like a combination of Haku and Umaga is what Solo reminds me of. We all know what Jay can do. Roman is bigger than ever. Sami Zayn has, gotten himself over more than he's ever been in the company. The only guy who might have just stayed neutral is Jimmy Uso, but even he has had a lot to say, in the Sami stuff and things like that. So this whole angle, this whole story has been really well done. It's been interesting, and it's made me want to watch these shows because I think every segment and match that the Bloodline is involved with as it relates to Sami Zayn is a can't miss. You have to see everything Paul Heyman says. You have to listen to every word he says now, leading up to this, to try to get as many clues as you can and see what they're going to do and follow the story. And it's been a good one. It's been a really good one. And I'm going to be sad to see it end. I mean, if it ends at Elimination Chamber with Jay turning on Sami, he's back with the Bloodline now. We got the Usos, Owens, and Sami match set for WrestleMania, and Owens, beats Cody. Or I'm sorry, faces Cody. After WrestleMania, essentially all of that is done. Owens and Sami are probably your new tag champs. Roman has lost the world title to Cody, maybe because the Usos aren't there, or I don't know, maybe Maybe Sami and Owens take them both out at WrestleMania and they're unable to help Roman the next night. Something like that. I have no idea. I think WrestleMania has big potential to be fun. A whole lot of fun, for sure. We had the return of Ronda Rousey as well last night, which I thought was interesting. Natalya comes out, and it's just hard for me to ever care about Natalya. However, I was a big fan of her dad, and I do like the fact that Natalya is wearing the hat. That's very cool. Very cool. Of course, Natalya gets virtually no reaction from the fans when she comes to the ring or in her promos, but I do like her hat because I liked her dad. She talks shit about Shayna Baszler, calls her a knockoff Ronda Rousey. Shayna Baszler then comes down to the ring, gets in the ring with Natalya, or she comes out the ring to the aisleway first with the mic, and then gets in the ring. And then we hear Ronda Rousey's music play. She's back. She comes out, and we have not seen her since she dropped the belt to Charlotte, and she gets in the ring with Shayna Baszler. They kind of tease a little maybe issue between them, and then boom, she attacks Natalya, and the two of them just kick the crap out of Natalya. And that's interesting because now, are they setting the stage for Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler at WrestleMania? I kind of think they are. This is telling me that Ronda is on her way out. This is just what I'm grasping, or what I'm taking away from this. Ronda lost to Charlotte. You know, wouldn't you think if she came back, she would want her women's championship back? I mean, unless she understands that, you know, Rhea's got the title shot, but there's a whole lot of time between now and WrestleMania. She could attempt to get her belt back if she wanted to, but instead she's going to team up here, it looks like, with Shayna Baszler. Now, a Ronda and Shayna team would be fantastic. Put the tag team titles on those two and let them kick ass. But they might not have time for a tag team title run between these two. Ronda might be leaving the company if her deal is up after WrestleMania. Again, I don't know. She could have a whole nother year left for all I know. But a lot of fans have been wondering if this is going to be it for her. And if Ronda is going to leave, it would make sense that Ronda would want to put over one of her very dear friends on the way out the door. Here, take my MMA baton, and you're going to be me now in this company. You're going to be the one that women should fear when you come to the ring, because you know, legit, you could kick the shit out of anyone here. And so maybe Ronda leaving, putting her friend over would be a great way for her to go out. So maybe they're going to wind up having a tag team match here. Ronda and Shayna will team up. Maybe there will be a problem in the match. There will be a feud. And maybe like Brock and Lashley, you book some sort of fight pit match thing or some sort of MMA type of deal, Lion's Den or something like that, for WrestleMania between these two. Shayna Baszler getting the big win on the biggest show over the biggest female MMA star ever. If that doesn't put Shayna on a track to the title, I don't know what will. So I kind of feel like that might be the direction they're going here. We'll have to see. Apparently, Chelsea Green's Karen character is beginning a ton of praise backstage. What she did last night was really fun with Adam Pearce. Pearce is talking with Sonya. Chelsea shows up wanting to talk to the manager of SmackDown, and he's like, I'm the manager. I'm the manager, and you knew that. You met me on Monday, and I told you the same thing. And she's like, I have facial amnesia. Are you discriminating against me? So fucking good. And acting like a total Karen. This is great. Wants to see the manager, the whole deal. Basically, she's kind of being like what Jeff Jarrett was in 1997 when he came back to WWE. Cut that shoot promo on Raw. And then after that, he had to have all these special modifications for his dressing room. Fiji water and purple M&Ms and shit like that. Maybe not purple M&Ms. Purple M&Ms. Purple Skittles, I think is what I was trying to say. Needed all this special shit. Chelsea's kind of being like that, but she also wants to see the manager. She has facial amnesia, and Lord knows we can't discriminate against that. And that was all really fun. Pierce makes Sonya and Chelsea team up to face Raquel Rodriguez and my sister later on. And, of course, Liv and Raquel win. Chelsea eats the pin, and she's been losing a lot but getting over at the same time. That is what a good character does. Sheamus and Drew McIntyre squashed Hit Row. That was fun. They need to be squashed. They suck. And there was also a fatal four-way for the new number one contender for the IC title. Madcap Moss beat Santos Escobar, Rey Mysterio, and Karrion Kross to get that opportunity next against Gunther. I don't know when that's going to be, if it's going to be at the Elimination Chamber or if it's going to be the next week on SmackDown, the night before Chamber. I don't know. Or if it's going to be down the road. Who knows? But he is the number one contender for now. Moss getting a push, I'd be cool with it, but I don't think he's the guy that needs to take the title off of Gunther, but maybe he will be if they push his match all the way to Mania. But I feel like that match is going to happen quickly. Gunther's going to win and still have a big match planned at WrestleMania. So here's how the Chamber card is shaping up. By the way, on Monday, they also set up Edge and Beth Phoenix taking on Balor and Rhea Ripley in a tag team match. Now, I had predicted that Beth Phoenix would show up and set up a match between Beth and Rhea Ripley one-on-one where Ripley would beat her, because I think Beth should put Ripley over on Ripley's journey to WrestleMania to win the title. But instead, they've booked the mixed tag. I like this because you can accomplish so much. Balor and Ripley need to win this, and the finish needs to be Rhea Ripley pinning Beth Phoenix. That's your finish. Rhea pins Beth. Balor and Edge can then have their WrestleMania match. Because if Edge pins Balor, then why have an Edge and Balor WrestleMania match? And then Edge is going to have to find a completely different opponent for WrestleMania when all the stuff with Balor has been going on, unless Edge is going to work with Damian Priest at WrestleMania. That's possible. But for this, I would probably have Rhea Ripley pin Beth. That way, that's a big statement win for her, and it doesn't resolve the issue between Balor and Edge. That can continue, which means they can go into WrestleMania and have Brood against the Demon or something like that. I don't know. It might be something fun or weird they could do, but if not, just straight up Edge against Finn Balor is a pretty goddamn sexy matchup for the biggest stage of them all, if you ask me. So that's how I'm booking that match for the Chamber. We also have the Women's Chamber. This is going to determine Bianca Belair's WrestleMania challenger, Nikki Cross, Raquel Rodriguez, Asuka, Liv Morgan, Natalya, and Carmella, who qualified on Monday. And the Men's Chamber, Theory defending his U.S. title against Seth Rollins, Johnny Wrestling, Bronson Reed, Montez Ford, and Damian Priest, who also both qualified this past Monday. And of course, we have Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns. Kevin Owens and Jey Uso will play big roles in the outcome of this match, I believe. And right now, I'm still picking Roman to win, but who knows? We have to do predictions. Shit. There we go. That's something I forgot. Let's see. I'll let you guys know tomorrow what day predictions is going to be. Probably Thursday. We'll probably come up here Thursday afternoon and do elimination predictions, elimination chamber predictions. Yeah, that's what we're definitely going to do. So keep a lookout for that. And that concludes my notes. And that's good because I got to get out of here in just a few minutes. So let me cruise over here to the chat, see if you guys have been saying anything else. Those of you who are still here, please do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button for me. I want to make sure I hit the super chats. I think I got all those. Reading some MJF stuff. I'll go back and catch some of these comments about the blood and all that. I Quit match would be good. Good suggestion there, Matos. If you did Ronda and Shayna or Brock and Lashley, I think either one of those two scenarios, I Quit match would be fantastic. So maybe have one some sort of brutal, bloody match and the other submission. You can go either way on that. You could put Brock and Lashley in a cell and have Ronda tap out and submit to leave the WWE, or you could vice versa that stuff. Brock, I don't know, Brock or Lashley saying I quit. I don't know. I'd almost prefer those two to be in a Hell in the Cell where somebody gets bloody and just gets beat or something normal. I don't know. Thank you for that, Rodrigo. Gunther and Moss next week on SmackDown. I did not catch that. Thank you for answering that. Yeah, thank you, Ryan. I should have known. Yeah, that's not a match they're going to save for very long. I mean, it's Madcap. I'm glad he won and everything, but he ain't going to be winning. There's those super chats that I missed. I was looking for those, and I could not find them. I'm glad I found them because I almost signed off here. But I also want to make sure I don't miss any other ones. Nope, we're good. Let me get this one from Tomas Aridia. Good to see you, man. Appreciate the $5. Punk comes back. I quit AEW. I agree with everything Seth Rollins said about him. Go away and do something else. Well, there you go. I'm trying to look at it from a wrestling fan's perspective. If I was in AEW, I might have a more stronger opinion because he's coming in and affecting my world. But from a wrestling fan's perspective, I would like to see what happens if Punk comes back. But I've been mostly in agreement with Thomas the whole time, is that what Punk did was fucking unacceptable, and I don't care what the Elite did to trigger that. You shouldn't have done that. That was unprofessional, it was fucked up, and not something someone of your experience should be doing. And it's just flat out wrong. So in a lot of ways, Thomas, I agree with you, but I don't want to sacrifice greatness. I don't want to sacrifice entertainment, as a wrestling fan just for something like that. That's between Punk and AEW and the locker room and Tony Khan. If they can work everything out, then I'll support a return. It just seems like there would have to be a lot to be worked out, you know? Supernatural 28. Thanks for the $2. Jimmy can't beat AC. Thanks for the DUI. Thank you, Supernatural. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was Jimmy or both of them. So that's how they did that. We did talk about that. I forgot Elimination Chamber is in Canada. Apparently Jimmy Uso cannot travel to Canada. So that is why Paul Heyman mentioned that Roman wants them to watch at home. I was thinking it was a way to have a reason for the Usos not to be there. That way when Jay showed up on his own, it would be a surprise type of thing. But yeah, the DUI had a lot to do with that as well. Good point, Supernatural. Thank you for that. Fight Pit, I quit, and Hell in a Cell. I'm all cool with that. Mid row, shit row. Yeah, I'm not a fan of hit row. Just don't like that top dollar, man. Or his top rope planches. Yeah, Ben, I heard a lot about the Impractical Joker segment on Rampage. I got to watch that. Didn't Jericho attack them or something? So yeah, I'll get a look at that tonight. But I worked really late last night, and then I came home. I had to prep the podcast, and I just decided not to watch Rampage. Didn't have time because a boy's got to sleep, you know what I mean? But anyway, speaking of work, I'm back to go do that again. I got to go do that career thing. Bills have to be paid. Rent doesn't pay itself. You know what I'm saying? So you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for being here, as always, on Winged Eagle Saturday. It's always a blast. If you could do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button out the door, I would appreciate it. Enjoy Super Bowl Sunday tomorrow. I'll be doing some live tweeting during the game and keeping my eye on it. And then we will be back here this Monday night to watch Monday Night Raw together to make up for there being no live reaction watch along tomorrow for wrestling. So thanks again, as always. Have a great weekend. I appreciate it, and I will catch you guys